But here's a story that I hope will inspire you and give you hope, regardless of what you see with your human eyes right now. John Quincy Adams, who I've already talked about and quoted from, and he's the one that told us the Constitution is built upon the slab of the Declaration. But he did an amazing thing. This guy, by the way, at a young age, this is part of the reason that we train young people from a young age. I mean, this guy was a diplomat in his teens, traveling around the world representing the U.S. He went on, and by the way, he was doing musket drills with the Massachusetts Minutemen at 8 years old. So that's like, it'd be like my 6-year-old grandson going out and doing, range drills with SEAL Team 6 or something. I mean, it's crazy. But he did amazing things at a young age, went on, of course, he was a U.S. Senator. He went on to be President of the United States, then went to Congress. So I know that sounds weird. He was president, and then he went to Congress. He actually won the presidency in 1824 without winning the popular vote, nor did he win the Electoral College. Okay, so he lost to Andrew Jackson in both, but no one got a majority of the electoral votes. So it got kicked over to the House, where they got to choose from the top three, and John Quincy Adams was favored by the House over Andrew Jackson, and so he became president. He served one term, and then Andrew Jackson defeated him in the next go-around. But then he goes home and he runs for Congress, and he does this because he's a one-issue guy. His whole purpose in being in Congress was to end slavery. He became known as the Hellhound of Abolition, and he fought in Congress for 17 years to end slavery. 17 years without winning. Okay, so I want, that's the reason I'm telling you this story. 17 years without victory. 17 years. That's a generation that he's there every day, every week, fighting to end slavery, losing. He comes back day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, doing the right thing, fighting for truth. As we said in an earlier episode, as Captain America said, when the world's telling you something wrong is right, they were saying slavery was good, and John Quincy Adams said no. When they said for him to move, he, like Captain America, planted himself by the river of truth and said, no, you move. But it didn't happen in his lifetime. He fought for 17 years to end slavery, dies in Congress without seeing an end to slavery. Well, he ended up, two things about this. His 13th year into this, okay, so 13 years of fighting without a victory. A reporter comes to him and says, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your life, you're wasting my time as a reporter, and you're wasting Congress's time. What's the point? And John Quincy Adams said, look, I'm doing what I believe is right. And he said, John Quincy Adams said, sorry, Rhett. John Quincy Adams said, I'm doing what I believe is right. I'm doing my duty, and the results are up to God. He said, duty is ours, results are God's. And he kept coming back, loses battle after battle after battle after battle, ends up being censored by Congress. It's a pro-slavery Congress. They say, John Quincy Adams, you got to stop talking about slavery. He says, well, and they actually passed a rule to prevent him from talking about slavery. And they said, we're going to censor you if you do it again. And John Quincy Adams says, they're going to censor me. Well, if they're going to censor me, they got to have a censored trial. If they have a censored trial, what are we going to talk about throughout that censored trial? We're going to talk about the reason I'm being censored, which is slavery. So we're going to talk about slavery, the evils of slavery. So he says, let's go for it. Anyway, he was a brilliant guy. He fought for 17 years, but he dies in Congress without ever seeing an end to slavery. But here's the rest of the story. John Quincy Adams, in the final 2 years, so before he dies, and he dies literally in Congress, has a stroke on the floor of Congress. Someday we'll do a tour, and I'll show you where it happened. But he actually served for the last 2 years with a young kid that he mentored. In fact, he became close enough to this kid that the kid became a pallbearer at John Quincy Adams' funeral. The kid goes home, freshman member of Congress, goes home, doesn't get reelected, loses a whole bunch of offices, ends up running for 5 or 6 more offices, ends up losing all of those for just defeat after defeat after defeat. It was 15 years later, after John Quincy Adams died, that this kid finally gets elected again. He gets elected to President of the United States, and Abraham Lincoln implements the same plan that John Quincy Adams had tried to get passed all those years ago.